mentioned, I'll get one step beyond that. We may have 10 gigawatts of bids and projects or successful bidding of 10 gigawatt. The question of offtake or states coming ahead, coming forward to buy this power is still remains an issue. So, what are your thoughts or plans to do that?
Yes, Mahesh. I think the answer is in two parts. One, what you see, and you have seen the numbers, that the actual demand in the nation throughout the country has been increasing. We have crossed that peak demand of 220 gigawatts recently. So the demand is continuously increasing, therefore the demand for power, and therefore the demand for renewable energy. So that is one aspect which obviously a state will necessitate, like to have capacities firmed up. Two things, two advisories given to states. One is to plan their energy requirements from now on till 2030 based on two aspects. One is the resource adequacy, which means they will have to supply affordable clean power or affordable power 24/7 to the consumer. And second is actually meet the RPO regulations. Now we have seen RPO regulations that there in 2016, what has been changed? The change is there is a trajectory which has been revisited and has been issued in 2022 of July till 2030, and this trajectory is now being considered under the Energy Conservation Act, and I am sure there are deliberations which will make it make it mandatory and enforceable on the obligated entity and including the DISCOM. So one is on the enforceability of the requirement that necessitates he will have to comply with the RE power targets. And second is obviously the demand itself in every corner of the country is increasing at the pace which is probably nobody has seen the pace at which it is increasing compared to the last year. This year, almost more than 8%, almost month to month or the day to day has increased. So this is what I believe will help all of us to see that RE bids are successful and there are the PSAs, the power supply agreements are signed off. So that's what I do believe will make it successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Now that leads to my next issue, which I would like Gautam Chopra to address, is the states. We have a wind power which has its own characteristics in terms of its variability during the day, during the seasons. And states would prefer to have constant power or a dispatchable power. So I think in your view, are we at a level where we now have to very seriously think about wind, solar hybrid along with storage to offer RTC kind of a solution, which I think Mr. Jagdale has mentioned in passing?
Yeah, I think after wind solar hybrid plus storage is the next logical kind of conclusion. But there are one or two questions which I would like to ask. One is at the current pricing, would there be a person willing to buy power at a peak pricing of whatever has been offered currently in the market? And also with the green energy tariff which has come out by the DISCOMs, I mean, would someone want to buy, say, power from us in that way? So I would say that yes, that is the next logical step, but until unless the pricing of the battery storage and also maybe availability of pumped storage throughout the country, if we are able to do that in a manner in which we can provide a logical or a very cost competitive peak tariff to a consumer, then we can surely do that. Maybe in the near future we would be having we are hoping that the cost structure will be such of both these technologies so that it can help us in doing it. So yes, I would say it is there for the future, but currently maybe we are waiting for that cost structure to come down for it to be feasible.
Thank you. Coming back to Maharashtra, as has been mentioned since the start of this discussion, that Maharashtra at one point in time used to lead investments and capacity additions across the states. And in recent parts, it has suffered slightly. So, in this emerging scenario where people are looking at ISTS type of projects where selling power outside or in the CNI segment, how does MEDA sees its role apart from this helping the developers on ground to basically execute projects to a level where try to attract investments in Maharashtra?
Yeah. MEDA has to play a significant role in this development that we understand. So first thing is to strengthen MEDA to play this role. So we are really trying to access our internal processing so that we can really come up as a facilitator in this area. So we are trying to make our services more IT enabled. We are trying to increase our IT expertise so that facilitation shall be done in higher manner. Also, I have mentioned about single window portal that we have developed. We are trying to get with the stakeholders and address their issues. Also, green hydrogen policy is there, in which we are supporting RE with hybrid. We are focusing on hybrid more. Again, we are in continuous dialogue with DISCOMs, SERCs, and Energy Department. I will rightly want to take the issue mentioned by Gautam sir regarding SERCs and DISCOMs. SERC has ultimately, they have to look for the welfare of the consumers. So they have to look after the tariffs. I am not supporting it in some way, but what I want like to mention what MEDA is doing this regard, because this cross-subsidy burden is coming up heavily on industrial sector, and again it's coming on RE. So we have in process of bringing this cross-subsidized, this subsidized consumer on solar net. Already we have launched this Mukhyamantri Saur Kushi Vahini Yojana, and solarization of PG feeders will be, which will facilitate daytime power to farmers. And also it will reduce this cross-subsidy burden. Again, we are trying to bring other consumers like rural water supply schemes, gram panchayats, some of the government officers, which are subsidized, and this cross-subsidy burden is coming on other industrial consumers. Also, it is affecting RE sector heavily, and that are the bottlenecks because of which SERC is not really able to support, as mentioned by Gautam sir. So we are trying to reduce this burden and facilitate RE developers.
Thank you. Taking it forward, and I'll come back to the specific bid which has been announced by the ministry of 2.5 gigawatt, which is a different bid compared to the previous bids that has taken place, where it is a specific requirement of having capacity in different states, which to me was a long-standing demand from the industry, from a point of view that we will have now spread out of spreading of project across states. Though it has never been tested and everybody is upbeat about it, would you, Gaurav, would like to have your views on this? What could we face as issues so that it becomes a success?
Sure. No, I think the key issue, and I'm sure there are already thoughts gone behind how to address it, but the key issue will be different developers will be choosing different states to set up this capacity, and because the resource is different in each of these states, somewhere the land, maybe revenue land, somewhere the land cost is very high, infrastructure cost, your LCOE will be different from state to state. Now, I'm still not clear, let's say if there is only one developer from Tamil Nadu who bids and no one else bids and he is the only tariff holder, whether that bid, whether that developer gets or not, for example. But the key point is there can be a wide difference in the tariffs coming out of this, varying from state to state. When there are multiple bids in a state, there can still be a good comparison. If there is standalone bid, there can be a challenge. But even because of the wide difference, and I'm sure that the uniform tariff policy, which is being done for solar and wind separately, would help. But we have to see eventually how the off-takers are going to react to it. Because today, at least we see any tender when the tariff outcome is on the higher side, those tenders go in a limbo. Either they are cancelled or they don't move forward at all. I think a good mechanism has been put in place. We are all, as stakeholders in this industry, will be very keen to see that how it can be, successful it can be made. And I'm sure Mr. Jagdale is the best person to comment on this. They must have thought through this and every aspect and make sure that the challenges which come are overcome, because this is very critical. I think I'm sure this has been a very difficult decision to reach, moving from reverse auctions to a single stage bidding, but it's for the betterment of the sector, and that's why this decision has been taken. So I would let Mr. Jagdale respond to that.
Okay. Thank you. No, you mentioned it. I think it's a long, deliberated, very, very minutely reviewed. It was a joint consultative process that was done when this decision was taken. Obviously, now the success of this decision also will depend on the same level of stakeholders. And it is my suggestion and request that please, while we are coming out with this path-breaking change in the way the business is conducted, it will be wise for all of us to be sensible in what we are going to do with this first tender. So with that, I think you mentioned that what happens if only one bidder quotes. I think since it is a central pool, irrespective of the difference of tariffs that may come out from the different states, these are going to gain the pool, so that will be honored. I don't see there will be an issue. What is that the uniform pooling mechanism, which is almost ready, and the grid controller has framed the guidelines. So all these tenders will come under that guideline. So that will be the first step for all of us to see that those guidelines are properly drafted, which we have done, and a lot of stakeholder consultation did happen in that as well. So this particular, as Mahesh was talking, this distribution of assets is critical. And concentration of assets in one particular state or one particular geography is not going to give any good results in the long run. I know we have challenges in terms of the resource being concentrated in one or two good states in terms of land as well. But here the challenge for all of us is to slightly now renovate and move to those distributed areas where we can still generate whether it's wind or solar, and still deliver the cost at the competitive rates. Wind, especially being in those 7, 8 states, is extremely critical. Otherwise, it is going to be an issue. So this is a process which will be really followed and reviewed after the first tender. So if at all there are any concerns that may arise out of the implementation of the first tender, we all will again review that and try to resolve that. So that mechanism will still be available. But before I conclude, I still will again like to say the success of this tender and this policy will still lie with the same stakeholders who were there during the reverse auction as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, since we have a very limited time, I will just ask to all the panelists to respond very briefly. Sir, now since we started with you, sir, on offshore you had mentioned, and on one of the things which is also important for us is repowering. Yeah. So on offshore, we already see that there would be a tender which would be basically focused on the C&I market. And is there any thought or planning going on for the other tender, which is a VGF kind of a fold?
Yes, yes, obviously. No, the good news is that we have received the in-principle approval for VGF for initially the 1 gigawatt of capacities, while we went with a request for 3 gigawatts. 1 gigawatt has been in-principally cleared, but then there are 2 further steps that we need to complete before we really formally announce the scheme. I'm expecting that during this financial year, we will start with Gujarat, because Gujarat is well prepared in terms of the data and the site preparedness, the stage 1 approvals. So VGF, we are putting up the committee, the note to the finance committee for its approval, and then it goes to the cabinet. But there's still some time. That time has to come up. But by March of 24, we should expect some positive news out of that, and that will be immediately followed in Tamil Nadu as well. But the good part is that among the state, now, we got a request from MEDA that why not Maharashtra look at the coastline of Maharashtra. 2 days back, West Bengal sent a letter, Orissa has sent a letter. So I think there is a still, and they do know that the cost of power generation from offshore will be initially high. They are well prepared for that, similarly what Tamil Nadu and Gujarat did. So I think everybody realizes the advantages of offshore on a long run. It has been seen. So this sector, and I would urge all of you to keenly follow this sector very keenly and prepare yourselves, because there is a substantial capacity that the Indian offshores will accommodate in next 2-3 decades.
Thank you. Coming back to the more important segment that we are now thinking about, that C&I segment, very briefly, I know this subject is big, and we have suffered a lot on C&I in many states, and still we are upbeat. So from Gautam, I would like to very briefly understand that what makes the industry think that it would now click.
I think there is a broad understanding or amongst the discoms that it's not as if we are going to come in C&I, it is going to hurt them, because all kinds of charges which they are getting, and also they are, I think, realizing that we are replacing the cost of the highest power and not the APPC. So that is what I think they are now maybe realizing. So there will be less hurdles, as we have seen from the states towards C&I. And yes, amongst consumers, obviously they are very willing. I mean, all our C&I clients, because of their sustainability targets. So I think, and once again, there is the point of basically between the states and the center, if there is alignment more on in terms of the allowing the excess and all. So that would also help, and that is going to, I mean, with the enabling regulations and all, I think that is a thing of the future. So I'm very positive about that.
Right. Thanks. All our investors, while they are very upbeat at looking at the projects, one of the issue that has grappled us was the payments from our off-takers, which were mainly discoms. And as Parag has mentioned, the LPS scheme has helped to a large extent, but still there are some teething issues that come up. So, and as a long-term developer, what do you think in the LPS scheme can be further modified, if it is possible, which could address the specific problems of wind and renewables?
Sure. No, I think overall it's a very, very positive step, and which has really brought all our outstandings to by almost halved, and it's a process. The only challenge is, of course, that whether it is a 2-year EMI, a 3-year EMI, or whatever, how long over how long they are going to pay. That is one thing. Second is, the calculations which are being done are still not transparent, whether they are including the LPS or not. They have simply informed that so much will be the payment paid out month on month. Lastly, the overall understanding is, once this is done, this is taking care of your backlog, but going forward, you shouldn't have the same thing happening again, and that at least going forward, your payments are coming. But takes care of backlog over a period of time. But your existing payments, if they start getting delayed, I think that is still not getting addressed properly. So the calculation of the arrears, the interest on those arrears, that is one part, and the second is the month-on-month payments to be regularized once any DISCOM opts for that. I think these two need to be tightened for it to be effective.
Right. Thank you. Now, this is an absorbing discussion that we're having, but I think we have a limited time, so I would give the honor to have a last word to MEDA with a very small and brief question. How much capacity they are expecting to be added in the year 23-24?
It's a critical question. Parag sir has already mentioned, we have not seen any significant development in last 3 years regarding wind in Maharashtra. So as we go by the figures registered by us, we see 300 to 500 megawatt coming in this year. But we are really looking forward to next year, where we will facilitate and will really be able to add significant capacity in next year.
Thank you. So, if, can we have at least 5 minutes of Q&A if everybody is possible? Yeah. Yeah, we'll have a few questions. Yes, Ashish.
It's okay, I don't need microphone. I think I have a hoarse voice, so all right. My question to ADG MEDA. My name is Ashish Nandan. I am from Renew Power. There is a GIN called wind zone reclassification, which comes out of the bottle every now and then, especially in Maharashtra. You being the expert body had classified the different zones. However, every time the DISCOM finds a new way to file a petition and then try to open the PPAs again and again. How long this will continue, number one. Number two, why can't MEDA take a tough stand that whatever has been done, even if there is an iota of error, why can't MEDA take a stand that that has been done and let us not reopen the PPA? If you want to classify the wind zone again, then it should be from the prospective effect rather than something which is already closed and troubling the developers. So can MEDA take a tough stand on that? Number one. Number two, one request to you, that Maharashtra is having a long coastal area, approximately 720 kilometers. So why can't Maharashtra be a leader in having offshore wind? Because it has tremendous potential. And MEDA, I know there is a paucity of resources in terms of staff strength, I would say. But there is no doubt in the capabilities of MEDA. So why can't MEDA lead to have Maharashtra as leader in offshore wind? What do you?
Yeah, regarding this wind zone classification, yeah, really will take a stand, and we are in process. So you will see the development. Second, regarding offshore wind, we are in communication with MNRE and NIWE. We have asked, as Jagdai sir has mentioned, we have Maharashtra has shown this interest, and we really want to explore the potential of offshore wind in Maharashtra, because Maharashtra is having 710 kilometers of offshore area. So we are really in process, and we are in process of identifying few areas where there can be a potential of offshore wind. And we will be really looking forward to NIWE and MNRE for the support.
In case of wind zone reclassification, we already taken stand. We have fought 3 cases with all developers. And it's already we have taken a very tough stand against the reopening of PPAs.
That's a firm answer. No, every time it comes out, that comes out of the bottle. So that is creating problem for us. Sir was saying something.
Sir, wind zone reclassification will not be done prospectively also. Because Maharashtra is having CPA level of 30. So So all of the people which fall under this category has spent their time. So if you go for the prospective reclassification, it will having an impact of tariff. And they are all, the wind FIT PPA in Maharashtra is having lot of pay in terms of payments also. And for recovery of wind specifically, I request that if this can be done, that can we have a clause of payment security mechanism in the PPA of wind side? It will solve the entire issue.
Would anybody want to address or answer? Yeah, because that.
No, see, basically the stand that the central government has taken is that the sanctity of the contract has to be maintained. We have taken that in the case of Andhra Pradesh, and if required, if it is escalated, we will definitely take the same stand. Even signed a PPA, I think the contractual terms cannot be changed. So that stand is very clear and firm from our side. You mentioned about, I think you also talked about payment security mechanism. All this, as I think we have deliberated, the late payment surcharge rules now supersede over the contract of PPA, and all those PPAs are a part of the late payment surcharge rules, and therefore all states have to subscribe to the late payment surcharge rules. Obviously, there are some issues that are resolved on a month-to-month basis, if at all they are reported. But that's the stand that the Ministry of Power has been monitoring every month, and if still we keep on getting issues, we are escalating it to the Secretary, Ministry of Power, and what we have seen, it has been resolved. We'll continue to do that hand-holding with all of you.
Hi, my name is Amit Gupta. I am from Energy Group. We are executing around 800 megawatt of project in Maharashtra. My question is to Dinesh sir. Dinesh ji, the ambition of government of adding capacity till 2030 is very ambitious and it's exciting for all of us. But there is one major challenge is of grid connectivity, which is very scarce, and very less PG cell CTU substations are available where capacities can be planned. MNRE has already identified wind potential zones in every state. And let's talk specifically about Maharashtra. There is a zone identified, and according to that, PGCL has already identified Dhule and Kolhapur as an area where they will come up with 2 or 3 gigawatt of capacities in CTUs. But the issue is that they want investors to first start the project, apply for connectivity, sign the LTA, then they will take the fund from the government and start building the substation. If government, central government is so much, heads on to achieving the target till 2030, why don't they give the funds to PGCL CTU to start building the substation where already the wind and solar potential is there, so that investor come afterwards when the progress is already started by government. That's the question.
So the two things. One, the planning that needs to be done from the government side to ensure we achieve 500 gigawatt has been done. The total transmission sector of almost a capacity exceeding 500 gigawatt has been done. So that I think you are aware of. Secondly, the general network access rules, GNA rules are in place, and I think you are referring to that, where you need to, we are requesting that you need to take a first step. It's a twofold scenario. I think we need, jointly there has to be an effort to see that if at all there is a capacity available or there is a prospective bidder, prospective site developer in Pune and Kolhapur, and if you give that request, obviously they have to honor that. So it's a more of you demand and they honor. It's not that you just pay and they will sit. It's once you give that, subscribe to that, it is the responsibility of the government of India to ensure that that network accessibility of the evacuation is given to you. And there are several methods. I think you are all must be aware of what kind of 2-3 alternative methodologies are given in the general network access. But I think you are telling why not you start first and why we will come later. It's a decision that obviously has its own merits and demerits as well. And we have seen there is substantial capacity today in India, even in Maharashtra, where transmission is available and there is no project. So such situations should not arise, and therefore the money that has been invested in has actually to be, the asset that has been created of the investments has to be utilized. Therefore, I think that is the rationale behind the kind of method, the rules that have been laid down in the GNA. But GNA is a revolutionary move. I think that will set up the ability for a developer to if at all he feels that he has a prospective site and he demands, it is the responsibility of the government to provide you the network. So that has to be acknowledged and we have to move forward on that. That's what I can say now. Maybe if anybody else has to.
Yeah, I think, yeah, one last question.
Hi, this is Nitin Gandhi from JSW Energy. Thank you for this organizing this event. I would like to share the similar sentiment what Parag sir said about the law and order situation at the project sites. We are going one step ahead and we have been pushed back 2 steps back because of the local issues there. So it would be great if the ministry and MEDA takes initiative and help us in resolving those issues at site. This is one of my points. Second point, adding to what Amit said regarding the connectivity. We all talked about the PGCIL connectivity, but now JSW, which is having its own steel plants in Maharashtra and planning to build up wind capacity for its captive purpose, we would like to connect to the MSCTCL substations. But Osmanabad region or whatever wind potential region, wherever we are going, we are finding that the connectivity is completely full and blocked by the developers which are not doing the projects there. They are just blocking the capacity and then selling the connectivity at premium in the market. So, which is again creating some hurdles for a company like us and the similar companies. So, I would like to ask MEDA and the ministry, how can they help us in resolving such kind of situation?
Yeah, I think the similar situation was faced by CRC in 2019, and I think maybe one can look at that.
As previously it was mentioned that there are serious ROW problems and lawyer and power order problems which are being identified. So we have appealed WIPPA to give us detailed note about it, and which will mention all the detailed problems coming, and will really take up this matter with the requisite authorities at government level, and we'll try to resolve the problems. We'll try to develop a mechanism at district administration level and government level. And regarding this grid connectivity, we are continuously in dialogue. We are there to facilitate.
I think what I heard and what my discussion is that if there is any non-performer in the room, I think the government is watching it. There is no leeway for a non-performer. I think there are stringent rules being framed if somebody is trying to take this undue advantage of this. But what I see is that wherever we go, it's all those serious developers who have who are looking at there is a cost to to seek a connectivity as well. And I hope such things should be avoided as you were mentioning. So we'll also ensure that the monthly we are taking a review and such kind of things will be avoided. I don't think, I can't comment on whether such developers are at this stage. I am not fully aware of what you are referring to. But on the law and order, as Pankajji mentioned, we have taken it seriously. I think we both collectively, state and center, will intervene in this. And I do realize, I come from that background where I was on the ground as well. So I do realize the pain points that you are mentioning, and we will work on it. Thank you.
I'll just close this
with one question.
With thanks to, I think we can take it up, yeah. So I would just thank all the panelists for their time and the answers that based on their experiences that they're given. So thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for such an elaborative and informative session. We'll quickly like to thank you for the entire panel discussion. And Parag sir, I request you to kindly thank them with the mementos. Can we have the mementos on the dais, please? Yes. So firstly, we'll start with Shri Dinesh Jagdare sir, the Joint Secretary of MNRE. So thank you so much, and we really appreciate you for all the information that you've given, and you've cleared so many doubts of every audience sitting here. Now I'll request to felicitate and thank Shri Pankaj Tagalpaleware sir, the Additional Director General at MEDA. Now I request you to please thank and congratulate the CEO of Spring, Mr. Gaurav Sood. Thank you so much for your time, sir. And I'd now like to thank Vice President at Continuum, Mr. Gautam Chopra. Thank you so much, sir. Can we all together quickly have a quick picture? Everybody together? Yes. And I'll also like to thank and for moderating the entire session so well, Mr. Mahesh Vipradas. Thank you so much, sir. On this note, I'll also request everybody to kindly, so everybody has so many thoughts and so many questions. I would request everybody to please put them on Twitter at #PowerOfWind, and you can also tag @_ WIPPA. So I request, the notes are on your table where you have to put your questions and your queries. And also it's time to head towards the dinner and the closing ceremony. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for all your time, and I hope most of your questions and queries are cleared right here. We would like to tell you that there's something important that you have to do after now. Firstly, the bar counter is open, the dinner counter is open, the time we were waiting for since a long time. But the second most important thing, the third most important thing that you have to do right now is talk to each other, socialize, and understand what everybody has to say to everybody. So everybody is kindly requested to socialize, be right here and get this formal event to an informal zone. Thank you so much. We have our legends and dignitaries right here present. So there are a few more questions, so you can definitely ask them on one-on-one. Thank you so much, everybody, and hope to see you again some next time. Thank you.